What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Too Good for Theaters video. Today we're doing another draft profile video, this time a wide receiver out of Florida, Elijhah Badger. So let's get right into it. So taking a look at Elijhah Badger here, he is 23 years old, 6'1" in terms of height, 192 pounds. He spent 4 years at the NCAA college football level, 3 being at Arizona State, 1 his most recent year being at Florida. And the reason why I like Elijhah Badger, probably in the later rounds here, probably 6th, 7th, or maybe even as an undrafted free agent, is just his deep ball metrics and how he really showed that he could be a vertical threat, even though he doesn't have the distinct proper NFL size and strength yet to kind of be that true X boundary wide receiver. But that would certainly be something that he has to develop. And I mean, you can kind of see this through his run blocking scheme, where he really was not a good run blocker whatsoever, even though he was kind of that boundary guy. He needs to bulk up. He needs to put on strength. And, of course, the injury does not help that he had, I believe, at Arizona State. So maybe he was hampered in terms of that. But in order for him to kind of hit his stride, he is going to have to bulk up. He's too thin, and he's just never going to get any type of playing time at the NFL level if he continues to be the size that he is. But a lot of the positives that you see in Elijhah Badger could easily be translated to a very successful type wide receiver once he does develop that size and strength on the outside. I mean, his ability to really stop and decelerate within his route running is very critical. He is very good at running these kind of comeback routes, which is something that the Patriots typically have not had a ton of success with, especially given the fact that they don't necessarily have that deep ball boundary type threat. So if Elijhah Badger were to develop into that bulkier type receiver and keep that deceleration and acceleration ability that he has displayed during some of his deep ball routes, that could be a little bit of a lethal combination there, and that could certainly be his trademark on why he may be retained on an NFL roster here. But like I said before, he has very good hands. He only has a 4.2% drop rate in his college career. However, his contested catch rate is a bit lower. He did have a very good contested catch rate his most recent year at Florida, so hopefully that's signs of improvement. But his contested catch rate throughout his college career is only 51.9%, which simply, for a guy of a 6'1" stature and for how many deep ball targets that he got, it's simply just too low for him to really have that lower percentage. So he certainly has to develop in that area. And like I said before, maybe he's showing signs of improvement in that area by getting better at tracking the football. But all in all, I would say that if you want to take a late round flyer on this guy, I would certainly be approving of it. I mean, he has pretty solid speed, being 4.43 on the outside, 6'1" frame. I mean, very nice there. 10-yard sprint of 1.53. His vertical leap is a little bit lower than some of the other taller wide receivers in this draft class. So maybe he's not that explosive of a jumper, and it kind of leads to him more so trying to catch the ball with his body compared to trying to high point the football. Very similar to a guy like Jaden Higgins in terms of that aspect. So that would have to be an area that he does develop in. But maybe you take a flyer on this guy, and maybe you could develop him on your practice squad for a year or two, and maybe he becomes a piece that the Patriots might actually foresee being on the roster, being one of these late round draft picks here. So taking a look at Badger's 2024 campaign, he played in 12 games. He had an offensive grade of 78.6, a receiving grade of 81.5, and a run block grade of 48.1. He was targeted 61 times and came down with a total of 39 receptions for a reception rate of 64%. He had 806 yards on the season. He averaged around 20.7 yards per reception, 4 touchdowns. He had a contested catch rate of 68.8%, coming up with 11 of 16 targets. Did not have a drop. He averaged around 6.4 yards after the catch. He averaged around 2.96 yards per route run, and he had an average depth of target of 17.3 yards. So someone who kind of worked down the field and really operated in that deeper portion of the field there. Some of his key games were against Texas A&M, where he came up with 5 of 6 targeted passes for a reception rate of 83.3%, 94 yards and a touchdown. In the Florida State game, he kind of got taken off the field. He only had 2 catches and was targeted 4 times and only had 11 yards. And then against Kentucky, he actually came up with all 3 of his targets, having 3 receptions for 148 yards for 49.3 yards per reception there. And I believe he actually had his long in that game. And he really was strictly that boundary type wide receiver at Florida. He took 459 wide snaps compared to only 84 slot snaps in the Gator offense. And someone who I've kind of comped him to, if Patriots fans remember specifically in the 2020 campaign, I believe it was Damiere Byrd, a little bit of an undersized wide receiver who played on the outside, who strictly won through his speed. But just because of the threat of his speed, he was able to have a lot of success with his comeback type routes with that Cam Newton-led offense. And it's very similar to how I see Elijah Badger kind of playing in that college level. So I thought Damiere Byrd immediately stood out to me. And I think that's honestly probably one of the better NFL comparisons that I've seen thus far. So that might be the type of role that Josh McDaniels tries to use Elijah Badger in if he were to come to the New England Patriots. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this video here on Elijah Badger. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below whether or not you think the Patriots should take a late round flyer on this guy. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. I'm going to be continuing to upload some more and more of these prospect profiles. Probably that's going to do it for the wide receivers, but I'm definitely going to get some edge defenders in there, some more offensive line talk. I'll try and do some running backs as well as some tight ends and definitely some secondary pieces as well. So I look forward to making some of those, and hopefully I'll catch you all in those videos as well.